like this. You can see it a lot easier. Hi there, folksies. Here's my second live shot. Let me see if I can. That's better. If I just step away, you can see it a whole lot easier. So, hello, hello, hello. I'm waiting for someone to join me. Hi. Uh, Hello there. Now, as you come in, I'd like you to just let me know who you are and where you're watching me from. I'm Rosie the Quilter, and my project today is to complete a quilt in a day. So I started this project at 10 o'clock, and now this is, or yeah, about 10:30 actually. And so this is my follow up, part two. And as you can see, I've made quite a bit of progress. I'm making a coin quilt, and the coin refers to the columns that are used in the quilt. Each block is the same size, 4.5 inches by 9.5 inches. All I used a rotary blade to cut, not an AccuQuilt. I don't have an AccuQuilt, so I do it the old-fashioned way. And so I did all my cutting yesterday to make sure that I had enough fabric. All right, that's one of the important things when before you start a project. Pick out the fabrics that you like, but also um, plan your whole project. Plan all the pieces, how many pieces you will need for each of the colors involved, and make sure you have enough fabric to cover that project. Nothing worse than to find out I needed one more block and I don't have it. And nobody likes a quilt with a hole in it, you know, or no one's going. You're never going to live that down. Even if you find something similar, you'll always remember that's the one that doesn't match, and it will haunt you. Well, it would haunt me. Maybe it wouldn't bother some people, but for me, it would be a problem. So before we go on too farther, let me just I am inviting comments and quilting questions. So if you have any questions about quilting, please take this opportunity. I've been a quilter for 20 years, so I've probably made every mistake that you could make, including cutting my finger a couple of times. So that now I got one of those lovely gloves that prevents you from getting injured. So, anyway, at this point, you may think that my quilt is all put together. That used to fool my father all the time. This is just what they call a design wall. It's made by Fons and Porter. Uh, but what it really is, excuse me just a second. There are comments? Oops, Daisy. Let me see. Oh, I bet you they're in my up in the other before we go on, I've just been alerted that there are some questions that people have been asking in another uh, group that I've posted to, and I want to make sure that I don't ignore them. Some questions that people have been asking in. Okay, the green glove. I'm sorry. Let me get up and show you, because let me it is very important that you have the right tools when you're working with things. Excuse me just a second. Yeah. So they call this glove the klutz glove. Yes, because if you are klutzy like me, you might go and cut yourself with your rotary blade, end up in patient care, having somebody put liquid stitches on your finger, and then a big old bandage that looks ridiculously big, which is what happened to me um, a few months ago, because I wasn't wearing my glove. I thought, oh, I've been doing this for years. Why do I need a glove? Well, hey, that's why I need a glove. So this is called the klutz glove. The klutz glove is made by Fons and Porter. It is it's perfect, really. It has a patent. So these little nubs you see there, that's what protects you from that circular razor blade that we call a rotary blade. It it will not it cannot get through or cut through this fabric. Now this is a I think this one is large. They come in the three sizes. If you're a smaller lady than I, you could get a small or a medium. But I I've gotten into the habit since the last time I cut my finger to always, even if I'm just going to be doing what I would call a single cut or trimming, put it on. Nothing worse than walking into patient care with a towel on your hand, because and then have to say, "Oh, was that a rotary blade?" Please, you do not want to hear that. Okay, now I have another question. Do I use spray starch? A kind of spray starch. Back in the old days, they had Niagara starch. A lot of people use Niagara starch. One of the problems with Niagara starch is that it really starched it. Your stuff was very stiff, but then it left little flakes. I use Best Press, Mary Ellen's Best Press, and I buy it by the gallon. Um, Most shops don't sell the gallon bottle, but if you go to online to like one of my favorites is Sew for Less. Uh, Let me write it down for y'all. Favorite site for us get supplies is sewforless.com. Yeah, they they are really good, and I find that their their stuff is pretty good, and it comes in different scents. So this one is lavender. Um, they do have some that are no scented, that are not scented. Um, Other light florals, linen, which uh, it's kind of okay. It's like if you don't like fruity, go for linen or go for no scent. But I like that. I buy the gallon bottle, and then I throw it into this one that I use here in my sewing room. So right now, what you see here is that I have sewn each of the columns together, right? And you lay it out. This is how you make sure that it's going to sew together properly, or if you've made any boo-boos. This is especially important since I have a focus fabric that has words. And nothing worse than to finish your whole project and find that one of these blocks was upside down. And now you have a lovely quilt and a block where the words are upside down. This is what helps avoid that little mistake. Okay. Uh, Another thing that helps is that this also, using a design wall, will help you in case a color or fabric you thought looked lovely, maybe in a darkened room. Now, in the bright light of day, may not be such a good idea. So, again, a design wall helps avoid those kind of mistakes. Okay, so do I have any other questions? Because now the next step in making this quilt is, I would say, another very significant step. In addition to being able to select your pattern, cut your pieces, and sew them accurately, get to know your 1/4 inch seam. If you cannot eyeball it well enough using your generic sewing foot, you could buy one of those foot that have the guide on it, or use a foot like this. I don't know if you can see it that well. A foot like this, which is a 1/4 inch foot. So the needle has to be put in the center position. And as long as you hold your fabric flush with the edge here, you will be able to maintain a 1/4 inch seam. Uh, I don't much like using that foot because a lot of times I forget it's in there, and the next thing I know, I broke a needle. So I don't trust myself, but I do have it for those cases where it's necessary, um, but not too often, actually. I'm pretty good with eyeballing my 1/4 inch seam. So now comes the part of pressing. How do you press something like this? Because um, what you see immediately when you look at this is that, oh, it looks so pretty. But also, you're going to have seams that come together at these corners. And you want them to actually join properly. And if you want it to join properly, that begins with the pressing process. Now, and you have to plan that. I have 5 columns here, right? So you're going to have to sew 2 and then join the extra one, okay? Or do 2 and 2 and then join this one, or however you want it to do it. I always like to do, and I guess I'm going to have to look at this. Oh, wait, do I have one that's sewn? Yes, I have one here. Sometimes you end up sewing extras and you don't realize you have extras. That's in this case. So this is an extra one that I did. And one of the things is you'll see here when you press, right, you'll see this little edge here. When you want to sew them together, I always like to sew it so that you will have one piece will abut the other. And by abutting it, you'll make the join between them tighter. Because if it's abutting it, it will come up very close to it. I don't think you can see it right here, but I'm not really sure how oh, maybe if I do it like this, then you can see the difference. So if you abut it so that one piece is joining to the other and kind of pushing into into the seam of the other, uh, it will come together like that. Whereas if you do it the other way, they may slide. And then you have to be very careful when you come to a seam not to just go, you know, so fast that you actually slide past the join, and instead of abutting it, you kind of like um, I don't know, kiss it on the instead of kissing it on the lips, you're kissing it on the cheek. So you're close, but not really a real good tight kiss. I don't know. That's the way I kind of put it. Let me just double check here and make sure there aren't any other folks with different questions. Okay, I do see a couple of uh, hmm, yeah. Okay. I love I love my sister. She's so good. But she asked the very question. She asked if this was already finished. No, no. Now I have to press it. Now, watch and see what happens when I pull it down. Bing! You see? So I have all the pieces sewn together, but now I have to sew each of these columns together. And if you look on the back, you see all the seams that I'm going to have to sew to this one so that they sew properly. And it begins with the pressing. So I'm going to have to press this. I don't know if you can see, maybe you can see it better. You see how you have the black and you have the white here in the green? What I need to do is press this so that one whole side is going up with the seam and the other side is going down with the seam. And that way you'll have a very tight, here you go, you'll have a very tight join right here. Okay. Now, for some of you, you've been doing this for years and this is not news, but you want to know? Every time I get to the pressing part, I proceed as if I'm a first day presser because it's that important. I use my best press because you want your fabric to be as crisp as possible so that that join is done, it comes together really nicely. So I am going to get on to the next part of this. And let me just make sure if there are any questions. And let me see here because, whoops, oh no, I want this part here. Hmm. Okay, there we go. All right. And let me check over here. Okay. All righty. I think at this point, okay. Whoops, a daisy. Yeah. I think at this point, I am going to go ahead and uh, get ready to these, press these, and um, I'll be back. I guess let's give myself an hour and a half. It's 1 o'clock now, so why don't I come back at say 2:30 to do the next one? So at that point, cross my fingers, I'll have the whole thing sewn together, and then we'll be ready to start the working on the border and on the borders because I always have to do two borders. And honestly, I haven't thought about that yet. I always I always want to wait and see how this turns out in case I change my mind. I haven't cut a border that depended on fabric that I'm not using anymore. Ugh, that would be a mess. So I'm going to say bye bye for now. I don't think there are any more questions. Kathy, you're so kind. Uh, I, one of the nice things after a while when you've been working, you find you begin to trust your judgment about color and fabric. And the only thing you'll really regret is I didn't buy more. But you learn to live with the limitations of a budget. Ladies, and if there's a gentleman out there, I say bye bye for now. The next time you see, it will be one complete project. And that'll be pretty soon. Bye bye.